Scientific Diving and Safety Program Oversight by Neil Pollock. Diving is in some ways quite unusual for the breadth of applications it can support. From entry-level recreational tours to hardcore recreational-technical excursions, and from uncomplicated commercial projects to offshore saturation. So the reasons why people spend time underwater are in fact innumerable and varied. Law enforcement, Coast Guard, and military services all have a toe or an entire leg in the diving realm. Photographers use diving for everything from point and shoot to commercial movie production. And movie productions may require diving not just by cinematographers, but also by the cast, construction workers, and safety personnel. An even broader use of diving is used in support of science. Scientific diving is diving that is conducted as part of a scientific research or educational activity. It generally occurs under the auspices of a scientific diving program. Scientific dives are conducted worldwide using a variety of methods to address a wide range of goals. The finprints of scientific divers can be found from the tropical to polar waters and from well below sea level to altitudes approaching 20,000 feet. The biological sciences rely heavily on scientific diving, either for in situ studies, such as may be popular in ecology, and for sample collecting in almost any conceivable subdiscipline. Chemistry, especially natural products chemistry, relies heavily on underwater collections to discover new compounds. Moving further afield, archaeology has a strong presence underwater, both for shipwrecks and submerged terrestrial site studies. Speleology and hydrology incorporate a great deal of diving in their study of caves and water. Many other scientific fields also have a diving presence. Scientific diving is conducted both shallow and deep, under ice, and far back in caves. In pretty much any situation where you'd find water, you can also have creative scientists. What is interesting, given this remarkable range, is the strong record of scientific diving safety. A recent review of 10 years of scientific diving conducted by the American Academy of Underwater Sciences, AAUS, a US-based association with membership primarily comprised of institutions with scientific diving programs, captured over 1 million dives with a very small number of accidents. The sample included 33 cases of decompression illness, the collective term for decompression sickness and arterial gas embolism. That makes for a DCI incidence rate of 0.324 per 10,000 person dives. While the data from other forms of diving are incomplete, DCS estimates range from about 0.9 to 35.3 per 10,000 person dives. There are likely a number of reasons for the relatively good safety record of scientific diving. Most of the standards followed have evolved from years of thoughtful experience in the community. The choice of dive sites is usually retained by the scientist diver, and it is relatively rare for dives to be necessary in conditions that are less than comfortable. This reality is far different from that which may exist in some commercial or military operations. The oversight of scientific diving operations also provides a safety net not matched in most recreational diving activities. Many scientists come to diving primarily as a means to advance their science, to continue to use it as simply another tool to facilitate their work. Others may more fully embrace the diving and may even gravitate to a greater focus on the diving and diving safety than the science. The latter group may provide the best pool of potential dive officers, the individuals responsible for day-to-day administration of all divers and projects in the scientific diving program. The experience of appreciating the scientific approach, knowing how scientists think, what they need to achieve their ends, and often, most importantly, how to reconcile the scientific motivation with training and safety needs, is a powerful capability. Should mission creep ever lead a scientific diver towards questionable decisions, the diving officer, who often trains and certainly monitors and periodically evaluates the program's divers, stands by as a conscience to remind everyone of the priority of safety. Diving officers generally work under the oversight of a Diving Control Board, or DCB, a panel normally made up of senior diving scientists and institutional representatives, such as a medical officer. While the DCB can direct events, it is typically the diving officer who has the greatest impact on the character and the operation of the program. An individual with the right combination of expertise, leadership, teaching ability, and motivation can navigate the challenges to ensure that divers are appropriately trained, make good decisions, and submit the necessary documentation and retain currency, all to meet standards and avoid accidents. Diving officers, like other safety professionals, are in a position that if they do their jobs well, they help ensure that nothing, or rather nothing untoward, happens. All the critical assessment, planning, training, monitoring, and anticipation establishes an umbrella of protection. A good diving program will have a culture of thoughtfulness, low stress, and safe operations with great institutional support. Each of these aspects is necessary for a program to flourish over time. The evaluation of scientific diver competency can be an interesting challenge. Working scientists are busy and often dislike mandates to disrupt their activities for pool or classroom sessions. More importantly, such sessions are unlikely to represent the normal working conditions of the dive team. Artificial conditions are less effective at testing divers' true capabilities, and the diving officer misses the opportunity to see the specifics of the operation that are impossible to assess in summary documentation or highly constrained scenarios. The most effective strategy of a good diving safety officer, and probably the most enjoyable approach, is to join the research team in the field. Field evaluations can be effective when offered as a convenience to the dive team. One method is for the diving officer to volunteer to assist with normal operations on the day for a small price of having the dive team participate in the skill evaluations at the end of it. The diving officer assists with regular activities to keep the day productive while quietly evaluating normal operations of the team. This provides insights into crew performance and the needs of the scientific work. As an additional benefit, the time can also refresh some skills that the dive officer does not use on the daily basis. This is a useful element since the one providing oversight can sometimes be independent of the same protection. Running drills and emergency simulations at the end of a working day provides a better sense of performance with a normal degree of fatigue. Less than stellar performance under realistic conditions is more likely to capture the attention of a diver or dive team. It is more difficult to ignore problems evident in a normal day than in a simulated one. The completion of field evaluations is often extremely satisfying. The cost, particularly for the dive officers working in environmental health and safety offices with staff from multiple disciplines, is that it is hard for colleagues to resist a niggling or even greater sense that these are boondoggle days. The best way to combat this is to have at least one other safety officer with some dive training to participate in one of the field evaluations. In many cases, the less experienced individual witnessing what the dive entails will have even greater respect for the safety officer in the future. A good way to investigate a potential career in diving health and safety is to join an existing scientific diving program. While this may be easiest for students at institutions with programs, non-students may also be able to join, often initially as volunteer divers. This can be the gateway, providing experience and training, and if the fit is good, more opportunities will follow. Those who enjoy the challenge of holding all the pieces together to maintain a safe diving program could find a very satisfying career path.